Now, of course, we talked about this being a CNC machine. That means it's a computer numeric controlled machine. And it's what we call a three-axis machine. And by three-axis means that it raises and lowers the blade, it tilts the blade, and it moves the fence. And those are the three axes that it has. But it also gives us a fourth axis readout. And that fourth axis will be the readout for the flip stop. But let's have a look at that. If we hit the go arrow right here, this takes us into our short-term memory, and I can store jobs in here. I've got a few of them programmed inside here. And you'll see that there's a calculator function right here. If I hit this calculator function, it brings up a diagram, and this diagram is very helpful. It allows you to do some of the math when you're doing cuts. Let's say you're doing an inside cut on a board. You want to measure to the inside of a panel, and this is our finished piece over here. Or you want to measure to the outside. You can enter either value, enter the thickness of the board, the tilt of the blade. It will tell you the other value. And so sometimes we're measuring the inside, but we want to know what the outside is for cutting a board. It'll tell us that. So let's go through and we'll enter a few of these values and have a look and see what it does here. We're going to enter the thickness of our board, and again we'll hit that. It's 0.75. We've got a 3/4 inch sheet of plywood here, and we'll hit enter. And again, you can do this in inches or in metric. I'm also going to enter the outside value. Let's say I want that to be 24. So we're going to hit this and set that as 24.0 and hit enter. So that's 24. My blade tilt, I'm going to enter this in right now, and we're going to set this for 45 degrees. So we've set that at 45 degrees. We've got this set, and we're going to hit calculate. And what it does is it goes through and figures out the other numbers for us here. So it's going to tell me that my inside measurement is 23 1/4, my outside is 24. If I tell it how big the sheet of plywood is, so we're going to go up here and enter the sheet of plywood, and we're going to tell it it's 48 inches for the width of my sheet of plywood. We'll hit calculate again, and it'll come back in and fill in some of the other numbers here. So you can go back through and tell it what your blade height is, and it'll actually go back and figure the other numbers for you as well. To exit the screen, you simply go back and hit the home page, and we're back here to the home page. From the calculator screen, you can also hit save. Once you hit the check mark, it'll actually come back in and load those values in the software, and you can hit go. And it's going to set up the cut that we just programmed on the calculator. So first off is my blade tilt. There goes the fence movement. And I'm ready to go. Okay. Now this is a 4-speed machine, and 4-speed means it has 4 different blade speeds, and that's set up through the pulleys on the motor. The reason that it's a 4-speed machine is it can go from a pretty small blade, a 10 or 12-inch blade, all the way up through an 18-inch blade. And there's a handy chart on the inside of the door when you're doing your belt change. It'll let you know which RPM range you're at. When you're running a really large diameter blade, you really want to slow it down because the tips go so fast. When you're at different speeds, you'll see the speed reading up on the screen here. And you'll look up in the top corner of the window, and you'll see that it's set up right now for 3,000 RPM. Now when you're setting up a saw like this, it's very important to dial it in precisely. Again, it's a very precision machine. The ball screw and the mechanisms that raise and lower and tilt the blade are very precision, and you want to enter some of those values in here to go through and calibrate your machine exactly. So when you're setting up, you're going to hit this little gear right here, and that's going to ask you for a password. Now I haven't entered any password. If I were to enter a password, I would dial it in right here. I'm just going to hit go right now, and this takes me to that display screen. And this will tell me what my upper and lower limits are for the blade, the acceleration, deceleration for the blade up and down, and that's this first button. The second one here is for my blade tilt, and I'll tell it that I want to go to 46 degrees rather than 45, and I can go to 0, which is set right now. I can go -1 even on that one right here, and that gives me the adjustment for my blade tilt. On the next one, this gives me my fence values. This tells me my maximum fence travel and my minimum fence travel. Now the fence on this one is a smart fence. When it moves to the inward position, it's going to slow down and stop, and it's going to say that the fence is coming toward the limit, the inboard limit of its movement. And it won't move all the way in and against the bubble guard here or against the other guard. When it gets close, it's going to stop, and you're going to press and hold the finish button, and it'll move the fence in all the way, and I'll show you that in just a moment. The next button right here will actually show you and allow you to calibrate your tilt here based upon the height of the wood and actually give you the actual measurements. You can go through and enter the values right here. And then the last one that you'll see right here is the system passwords. You can enter your system passwords. You can go through and set both of the passwords on this one and save those to the memory as well. And then you can also go through and do your clock and date adjustments as well on the machine. I'm going to hit save on that. I'm going to hit exit, and I'm back to the home page. One of the things that I really appreciate about this saw, and I've used a number of different machines and a lot of other ones that are computer controlled, but I like how this one is very, very intuitive. The screens make sense. They're very easy to use. The touch screen means that I can walk up and I can start using the saw very, very quickly. One of the things that you'll see right here is the warning light, and that'll flash if there's an error on the system. If I push in the stop button, you're going to see that this flashes, and it lets me know that I can't start the saw because something's pushed in. If I hit that button, it'll bring up the screen here, and it lets me know that something's not switched to the correct place. And if I twist this here, it removes the error, and the error goes away on the screen, and it lets me know that I'm ready to go. There's an error clear and an error history that lets me do any type of diagnosis. To get out of the screen, I hit the exit, I'm back to the main page, and my error screen is cleared. The machine also has a self-diagnostic screen by simply hitting the last one here. This is a password protected area. I hit my password if I've entered one in here, and it'll go through and give me the lights here on the self-diagnosis area. And it's got inputs on different ones here and outputs that it has, and you can go through and check and test all these different ones. And this is typically something that might be a troubleshooting section, or a technician might use it to set and calibrate the saw. To exit that, I simply hit exit. Let's get on our hands and knees. Let's have a look through the back door, and let's look at the motor, at the saw group, and at the inside of the machine. Well, here it is, guys. You can see the inside of the machine, and you can just see how neat and clean this machine is throughout. You're going to see that this has two main motors in it. There's the main motor for the scoring unit. That's a separate motor. There's also the main motor for the saw unit, and again, that's a 7.5 horsepower three-phase motor. You'll notice also that it has a 4-step pulley on it to regulate the speeds. And this is the little item that I talked to you about earlier. When you change the belt speeds, it actually has different windows in it that rotate to this sensor, and that sets the speed reading out on the upper digital display. You'll also notice that on the bottom side here, again, we talked about maintenance earlier. Maintenance has never been easier. You'll notice that this has Zerk fittings throughout the machine here on many of the components that actually move on the inside. That means that servicing is very, very easy. Just go to the Zerk fittings, hit them really quickly with a grease gun, and you're done. You don't have to go through and lubricate a lot of other components. One of the neat things that I like on the inside here is just how neat and clean it is. Everything is solid. You'll see lots of cast iron here for all the movements. You're going to see nice polished shafts on the inside here for a lot of the movements. And you'll see that all the electronics are very clean. They're tucked out of the way, and that the inner cabinet and the frame of this is just absolutely beefy. You can also see from this vantage point, if we look up, you'll see that the bottom of the cast iron table is properly webbed and stabilized. Now, we use seasoned cast iron for this so that it remains stable for the lifetime of the saw, and the webbing and the cross bracing on the bottom side ensures that it's dead flat for the entire lifetime of your saw. Now, in order to ensure that your machine is vibration free, we've done a lot of things. First of all, we've used a lot of cast iron. The other thing that we've done is that on the spindle of the machine, we've made sure that the bearings are widely spaced, and we'll see the lower bearing right next to the pulley where the belt change is done. And if we travel up the shaft, you'll see just how long that support shaft is. It's one of the widest in the industry. And you'll see that there's a bearing right next to the blade as well. So we've got two series of bearings. They're widely spaced, and you've got a nice heavy shaft that spins your blade. This ensures that your saw is going to be very smooth, stable, and accurate, and vibration free. Now, from this angle on the inside of the cabinet, we're going to go ahead and tilt the blade and raise the blade so you can watch the blade movements from the inside. And there you go. The blade is raised, the blade is tilted back to 90 degrees, and the fence is compensated to adjust itself from the blade being at 45 degrees now to being at 90 degrees. Now, we talked about the fence system on this saw and just how accurate it is and how precision of a fence system it is. And one of the reasons for the precision is this long recirculating ball screw right here. And this screw here allows this fence system to be precision placed in the machine. It allows it to go through and come to one adjustment and then to dial itself in and to eliminate any type of backlash in the machine. It's a precision piece of equipment. It's something that you don't find on the bolt-on aftermarkets, and it's an integral part of the saw. Now, as I move the fence back and forth, you'll actually watch this move. So we've done the walk around on this saw, and you can see just how great each and every individual component is on the saw, and really how nice the fit and finish is on the saw, and really how extraordinary all the individual components are of the saw. Hopefully you've also seen that through using the touchscreen control and the CNC control on this saw, that you have a lot of time savings, and that equates to dollars for your shop. That's really what it's about when you're at this level of machinery. Now, as I mentioned before, there's a few options on this machine that you can see as well. There is a controls in the handle of the machine that allows you to start and stop the saw from the handle of the saw here. There's also an optional table that allows you to go 46 degrees positive and 46 degrees negative right on the crosscut table, and that actually is in a parallelogram, so the table moves back and forth. There's also an optional electrical control so that you have motorized movements of the flip stops on the crosscut fence, and that's another level of this machine. Some shops need it, some shops don't. It is something that is an option for this machine as well. If you'd like any more information on this machine, please feel free to give us a call toll-free at 800-234-1976 or go to our website at www.lagunatools.com.